Want to give you guys an update on how it's going. So this morning did about like 2 to 3 hours of work and then went to a coffee shop this afternoon, did about another 2 hours. After coming back from spring break, definitely still had a lot more things to work on. So just been really pushing through that. One of the biggest and like most annoying things I think about trying to achieve something that is a very large dream or maybe will take a very long time to kind of get there is that like there's going to be such a long period where you're believing in yourself and you're putting in a lot of work, but you're not seeing a ton of results. And that's why being successful is so rare, because putting in the work for that long without seeing results is something that most people would consider like kind of crazy, right? You have to be a little crazy to do that. It's not a normal thing to just say, oh, okay, I'm about to work and put in so many hard hours, make a bunch of sacrifices, and when I don't see any results, I'm going to continue no matter what. That's a very, very unusual thing. And it takes a super strong level of self belief in order to actually do that, because you're like there, you know you can achieve more, but you haven't reached that point yet. And a lot of other people who are maybe not working as hard, they're still thinking that you're just taking a massive risk and you're wasting your time, and you don't have any evidence or anything to like prove them wrong because you don't have any substantial results yet. So it's a really hard time because you have so much self-doubt that can spring up, as well as people just don't understand what's going on, and you have to kind of separate yourself in a sense from other people because of what you're doing. Because what you're doing is very different, you're going to be isolated. And the big problem, I think, is that this period can be quite a while. For some people, it's like 2 years. Some people, it's even longer. And so being able to weather that storm is the reason why, there's only like 1% of like people that are successful and the majority of other people are not. Because I think one of the best ways to think about it is like if you're all in a race and let's say most people make it past like the first quarter of the race. And then after the next like 25%, some people drop out. Then like you keep doing that, right? But then by the time you reach like, let's say 80% of the race, there's so many people who already dropped out. And then more people drop out when you reach the 90%. So it's like success is always trying to be very like elusive. And that's why like if you put in a bunch of work and decide to give up, you become exactly like those who gave up in the very beginning. Because even if you were like farther along than most people, you still gave up. And so the end result is really just the same. It's not like, you got some award for putting in some X amount of work, but at the end, if you give up, that's really just what the result is, right? The result is the same. You gave up and you didn't finish. And the crazy thing is that end period of time where you put in work and you really try to like push through all the way, let's say maybe you would have gotten successful in just a couple more months, but that's really the difficult thing because you don't know. I could be continuing to do this for the next 3 years and have nothing happen, but maybe that fourth year something else would happen and it would be worth it, all this time and effort that I've put into this kind of thing. But we just have no idea, and that's a huge uncertainty for a lot of people. There's a certainty of like you're gonna work every single day, but it's like, is that work gonna be worth it in the end? And for a lot of people who don't have that level of self-belief that they can actually make it, they're like, their motivation just completely cripples under the test of kind of other people or self-doubt or anything that pops up. They'll find any excuse just to quit. And a lot of like successful people, they can give themselves reasons not to quit, but you have to have a very long list of reasons, because as you go through, you'll have each one be tested. It's like, oh, I'm not going to quit because I know I can do this. But then when you have an event that questions, can you really do this? You have to have another reason of like why you should keep going. And it just becomes a game of like, how long can you keep going and keep improving for? Because if you keep going and keep improving, it is a guarantee in the end of the day. It will be kind of yours at the end, but it's just like, you don't know how long it's going to be, but it will happen. And that's something I think I try to remember when those days, like it gets just so difficult. There's a lot of work and, maybe other people aren't doing the kind of work that you're doing. So it may seem like, what am I doing it for, right? If they're not doing it, why should I do it? And it's easy to get in that kind of thinking of like, oh, I don't need to be doing stuff because someone else isn't. But you always have to remember, like, the reason why people are successful is because they're doing stuff that other people are not doing. So it's like a good sign if the people around you are not doing something. Of course, take this with reason, but just have to really be your own motivator in those times when it gets really, really difficult, because unfortunately, it'd be nice to have another person with you who's also trying to make it, but that's very rare, to be honest. Most of the time you're just kind of by yourself, which is fine, but you really have to learn to be nice to yourself, and that like you need to just keep motivating yourself, keep pushing yourself no matter what happens, and really just focus on the work. Sometimes you're worried about like all the external things, what will people think, etc., etc. But I think it can help if you just look at it from a very simplistic lens. Literally look at it as like, did I get the work that I need to get done today? Did I finish it or did I not finish it? And when you look at it like in a black and white lens like that, it becomes very obvious why you're not successful yet. Or it becomes very obvious that like you're not going to be successful because you're not putting in that kind of work. I think a big thing too is that this period of time when you're not successful and you're still putting a lot of work is really a huge test of patience. For me, I just want to fast forward to the part in the movie where, I become successful, or I don't have to worry about certain things. But it's like, that's not how it works. You have to go through those years and years of you struggling and not making it and having all these failures again and again and again before you actually get there. I've talked to like a lot of people and you see them now and they're doing well. But it's like there's at least, 2 to 3 years where they're just struggling. They just had failure after failure after failure. And you think about people with different business ideas, they all try like, 4 to 5 different business ideas first, and then they go and find the one that actually makes them a ton of money, right? But it's like all throughout that process, and it's never a first time kind of thing. It takes a bunch of repetition, takes a bunch of learning, takes a bunch of failure to get to that point where you can actually have all the experience, have all the knowledge and stuff you need to actually build something that will work, build something that is going to be successful. But once again, most people never see that. All they see is just the end product. They just see the success, and they easily gloss over those kind of 2 to 3 years of just pain, suffering, and failure. You try to go like backwards from successful people, and like, what is the one common thing they all share? It's really that they had this period of time when no one knew who they were. They were putting in tons of amount of work, but no one saw the payoff. They had this vision that no one else believed in, no one else understood, but they stuck true to kind of their principles and their beliefs about it, and they pushed through and actually made it a reality. And that's, I think, the most inspirational thing about like working hard and stuff is you can literally turn dreams and things that you just thought about, that you just had this like idea of like, what if I became this? And you can turn that into reality. Like that is such a powerful concept. And that means at the end of the day, really the only thing limiting you is your imagination. Of course, there's certain things that are probably not like going to be possible. Like if you're 2 feet tall, it's hard to probably dunk. But other than that, I think there's so many other things that people just discount or don't consider that they could do. And they're really just limiting themselves because their mind is very limiting. If you open your mind to the possibility that you're able to be better and improve and just keep going no matter what, like you're just allowing yourself now to explore those possibilities and at least like give it a shot. It may not be the thing for you. You may not become like super successful, but at least trying that is definitely worth it in my opinion, because you really never know. You hear all these stories about people who never should have made it. They never should have had kind of success, or they never really should have like even had the opportunity, yet somehow they made it happen. And I think that's just like so inspirational, because you really can do like anything wherever you are. And so it's like, as long as you kind of put in that work, as long as you have a plan and you just decide not to give up, like I'll see you on the other side of like 3 years, and I'll definitely guarantee that you're going to be up for sure.